Hello and welcome to the second episode of Sam Interviews. This interview was done with Sikisa, who is a comedian. This interview was done a few days before Edinburgh started, so there's a lot of talk about her going to Edinburgh, as well as things that have happened within her career and what made her start doing comedy. I hope you enjoy this episode. First question is, what is your favourite TV show?
Oh gosh. This is such a difficult question. Why are you starting with difficult questions? Okay. Favorite TV show? This is gonna sound really weird. It's probably wrestling.
Fair.
It's just wrestling. Like if there's like AEW or WWE on TV, I'm there.
Fair.
So.
Personally, I'm not too big into wrestling, but I know quite a lot of people that are. So I know quite a bit about it because people talk to me about it.
It's great. Just get into it.
I need to get into it because it does sound good.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So the next question is, what's your favorite book if you've read a book recently?
My favorite book is actually an old school book.
Okay.
It's not old school, but it's by an author called Eric Jerome Dickey. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago. And the book is called, this is such a long time ago, but I need to remember the actual proper title before I give it to you. It is called Pleasure.
Okay.
That's the name of it. You don't need to read it.
What's it about?
It's basically about a woman who's trying to discover herself and meets two twins and then embarks on the idea of pleasure with these two twins.
That does sound good, to be fair.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And like, for example, one of the twins is married and like there's this weird like competition between the twins. Yeah. So it kind of gets like, even though it's meant to be like a romantic or like self-discovering novel, there was elements of, this could go a bit psycho.
When you're not doing comedy, what kind of music do you listen to?
We're very eclectic. I listen to all different types of music. The playlist that I have a Twix playlist, and it's got everything. It's got pop, it's got R&B, it's got current music, it's got rock music. I don't really have a favorite thing to listen to. It depends on my mood.
That makes sense. I think I'm very similar. I don't think there's like I don't think I've got like a go-to genre.
Yeah, no, it really depends on my mood.
Yeah.
And like how I'm feeling that day. Like, what do we really want to listen to?
Like there's some days where I will listen to like very slow things, and then the next day I'll like wake up and be like, I'm in a Slipknot mood.
Yeah, exactly. They are going to be headlining Download next year. I'm very excited.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I've seen them once before at Download, and then I'm assuming they're releasing new music. So
I've seen them live once, and the vibe in the room is it's like nice.
People have a weird assumption about rock fans or people that listen to metal, and I'm like, no, we're quite decent people.
Yeah. So I've seen that you've done quite a few like podcasts and interviews and stuff. Do you have a favorite question that you've been asked?
No, I don't have a favorite question. I ended up when I do podcasts and stuff, when someone asks you a question and you say something, then you end up on a weird, if it's random, then you end up having a conversation about that.
Yeah.
That's what I like, when you end up going on like a weird, like Alice in Wonderland kind of like feel.
Yeah. Recently, I've started doing like my own stand-up. It was kind of because I met you at MacFest. So like after MacFest, I got very into comedy and like very into like do my own comedy. And a lot of my stand-up is about a TV show from years ago called Nosy Bonk, because it's this guy with a massive nose, and it's silent as well, and it's got this like cartoon music in the background, and it's very creepy because it's like kids' music while this character looks terrifying. Do you have any like TV shows from when you were a child that like is stuck in your head for like a good or a bad reason?
I had someone asked me that I had to do something up there, and someone asked me something similar. Oh, that was it. It was called Man O Man.
Okay.
And it was like the original version of like a dating show, and it was like on Saturday night TV, and women were like trying to choose their perfect man, and they would push like the person they didn't like into a pool of water. It just stuck for me. Chris Tarrant used to host it, and it's been stuck in my head for ages because it was very much late 90s.
Yeah.
So it was very cheesy. But when I remember watching it when I was like 5 and 6, and it's just that kind of image of this like women just throwing men into pools because I don't fancy them, kind of stuck in my head for ages.
Have you read anything interesting recently?
I haven't read anything interesting. I'm trying to avoid reading stuff about immigration because it's quite depressing.
Yeah.
I read the verdict for the big old Colleen versus Vardy decision. That was interesting.
I don't know anything about
that. The big the big high court case between Wayne Rooney's wife and her name is, I can't remember her name, but it's something Vardy. It's a big high court case. Look up, like, yeah. And basically Vardy lost, and now she's gonna owe like £3 million or something.
Okay. I'll definitely do some research into that.
Look it up. It's very topical.
Yeah. Getting into like questions about comedy.
Mm-hmm.
What was your job like? Did you have any jobs before comedy? What was your life like before stand-up?
I have had multiple jobs at the same time. So comedy is currently and has never been my only job. So I've worked at a pub for 14 years. I'm also an immigration lawyer. I think I worked in a bra shop at the same time when I started stand-up comedy. So I've always had multiple jobs because I'm poor. That's the fact of it. Comedy doesn't really make that much money. It's good for like entertaining, but it doesn't really make that much money.
Do you find yourself with spare time then? Because that's a lot of jobs.
Yeah, the most common question I get asked is, when do I get time to sleep? Or do I sleep? Like I'm a vampire. And I do sleep. I just sleep like 5 hours a day normally. Okay. So I don't get to sleep a lot. But it is hard work. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it or know that there was an end goal that I was going to try and achieve.
What year did you start and how did you start comedy?
So I started, what we are in, 2022, aren't we? So I started about 7 years ago. So 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, 2016. No, that can't be right. It was definitely 2016 though. 2015, 16. Okay. I tried to dabble in it in 2015 and then I just didn't take it seriously. And it wasn't until 2016 that I took it a bit more seriously.
What got you into it? Like, how did you start?
The pub that I work in, and I MC at Comedy Virgins there still on a Tuesday. My boss, who owns it, said to me, "You're slightly funny. Like, why don't you give it a go? Why don't you give stand-up a go?" And I kind of was like, "Oh no, it's not really my vibe because I'm not very good at public speaking." So I gave it a go and was talking about lines for 5 minutes. Hadn't write no jokes. I just literally came on stage and started riffing about lines. And that was what I did for 5 minutes. So that's how I got it to stand up. I gave it up for a while. I didn't really take it seriously, like I said, because I didn't even think it was my thing. And then I kind of got back into it.
Do you have any idols? Like, do you have any people that you look up to in your like comedy or otherwise?
I look up to my mum quite a lot because she's probably the hardest working person I know. She's got driving motivation, which is probably where I get it from. I look up to like the people that I surround myself with, so my really close friends, because they are mothers, wives, they've got jobs, and they still manage to like look like be like alive. So like those kind of things I think are quite good to look up to. But also like I really enjoy Kevin Hart. I find Kevin Hart so funny. So
Kevin Hart is good.
He's so funny. He's just the best. So I like watching him, and like his career is probably like one of the ones that you admire to have, where you can still do stand up and you can be in movies and host shows and have all these different platforms available. You own a production company and stuff like that. Yeah. So those are the things that I look forward to hopefully doing if I make it success.
I think you could do that. Like seeing your stand-up and stuff, you definitely could.
We'll see. America's very different to like the UK. So like, you got to really like graft to be successful here.
I think you had like your breakthrough. Was it difficult to do that? Was it difficult to be known?
You mean in terms of like TV stuff?
Yeah. Or like, and just in general.
So like I've been working very hard during this for a while, obviously. And then I had my TV debut in 2020 out of the first pandemic lockdown. And that was very surreal. And then it was weird because since then, obviously, I had a couple other like TV stuff and I've been like doing loads of bigger gigs and stuff. But it's weird when people recognize you out of a comedy context. I've been recognized quite a few times when I've just been on the tube or actually at like a concert. And I was just like, this is weird.
Is it not nice in a way to be recognized?
It's nice to be recognized, but at the same time, it is very weird because I feel like I'm no one. I'm just like someone who's on stage who just happens to tell jokes.
Yeah.
Or just happens to, well, let me rephrase it. Someone who tells jokes who happens to be on stage. That's what I mean. So I don't think I'm anything special. I just think I'm just a normal person. And I do think like I live a normal life. I think a lot of people think when they see people on TV or like in movies, they forget that they're actually human beings and that they live the same lives that a lot of people do. They have the same problems, the same issues. Maybe apart from money, because they're celebrities, but like, I have that problem. I have money problems. So yeah.
I do find even myself doing it sometimes, like seeing like an actor or something, and you kind of, they're not human. You just forget that like they do have a family and they're not any different to anyone else. It's just they've made it in a way. Yeah,
they're just more in the public eye.
Yeah,
and that's an interesting concept where because they're in the public eye, the public feel they've got the right to judge them, and that's an interesting concept where I'm just like, they are still really just human beings. Everyone makes faults. Everyone and no one's perfect, so people need to realize that. But obviously with the rise of social media in the last couple of years, it's kind of like been a bit crazy with certain things.
I've kind of noticed it, especially through lockdown. I'd get like my phone would give me news, and it would be said actor has left the house and he's wearing this, and it's just like makes you kind of, it wouldn't be allowed with anyone else.
It's difficult when you put yourself out there, and then the question is do people have the right to like judge you for what you do? Like Kardashians is probably the biggest thing. Like, and I have never seen their like documentary or stuff like that, but I recently saw their last one, and I was just kind of like, oh, they actually are just like people, just rich people, but people.
Speaking of social media, has social media helped you within comedy? In any way?
I'm not very good at social media compared to some other people. I occasionally just post a picture of me looking pretty, or something like me at a gig or something fun that's happening. Other people obviously go a bit more constructed and have like set things they do. I have found if I've done like a big podcast or like a big show, I will get followers. And there are like people that will ride or die, like follow you throughout your whole career, or people that just like drop out. But that's just how social media works, isn't it?
Your social media is like Twix. Where did the name originally come from? Because you mentioned it in your stand-up, and I've had this question since then.
So Twix is a nickname I got in law school. So me and my best friend, who you would have seen in the pictures in my show, we're part of this chocolate family from law school, because we used to bring chocolates into our tutoring sessions, and our tutor was just like, why don't you just name yourself the Chocolate Girls? So we named ourselves after a chocolate that represents us. So I'm Twix because I'm a Gemini.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the main reason. But obviously I do a very dirty joke related to it, about it. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so like,
that's nice.
Some comics still call me Twix. They don't call me by my real name. They will call me Twix.
Yeah.
Because that's when I started. That's what I used to use was Twix. Because some people just mess up my real name, which is fair play. It's a very unique name. So that's why I went by Twix, because it was just easier.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice in a way because it like reminds you of that time, because it seemed like a very like funny kind of supporting like time with like good friends and stuff.
Yeah, it is. And like they're still my friends. So like we still, like my best friend's called Snickers. The other one's called Cadbury's Caramel. Like, and they've got chocolate babies now. One of them we haven't named, but like they were like, it's all in the family.
I've messed this word up so much. It's actually embarrassing. But do you have a creative process? I've been saying progress all day. It's an issue. Okay. Do you like, how do you write your jokes? What's the process between that?
It really varies sometimes. Like some days I can just be walking down the street and an idea will pop into my head and I have to write it down on my phone, or I will see something or something's happened and I'm like, I need to write this down because this could potentially be something. A lot of my friends now make jokes that everything that happens is now potentially going to be in my sets. And I think this is probably why I don't date, because people are like, I don't want to have to date you. And then all my stuff gets heard on like TV and stuff. I'm like, I mean, if you're going to be a dick, then your stuff is going to be aired on TV. So don't be a dick. Okay. Yeah, so like life and stuff like that, things that happen in the news, some things that are topical. Obviously, comedy is subjective. So like, anything I say is mainly about my perspective and my experiences, and maybe related to like how maybe some other people feel, or maybe how other people won't feel about the situation. So yeah.
So what is a lot of your comedy about? Because I've only ever seen, I've seen like you did did you do like Soho or whatever it was? Like you did there's videos online of your stand-up.
There's some clips online
Yeah.
where I've been at Angel Comedy or like Comedy Central and stuff like that. My comedy ranges. It depends on like what I'm doing on the day and who I'm talking to in terms of audiences. Like I can probably do a whole 20 minutes of just filth on like talking about relationships and dating and sex life. Or I could do like a whole 15 minutes about race and immigration. It really depends on like audiences, but I do try and if I'm doing like a longer set, I try and like showcase everything about me, because a lot of people will assume because I'm from South London or that I talk like this that I'm not like educated. So like once I start talking about immigration, then I kind of like, oh, maybe she does know what she's talking about. So yeah.
Do you get pre-gig nerves? Because when I saw you live, you were very confident and like as soon as you walked in, like you seem very, very confident.
Oh, thanks. I do, like that day for Mac, I had never done the Mac Festival before. I had many lovely things about it. And also, so I didn't know what to really expect. I didn't know whether they were, because I heard they were a very comedy savvy audience. And I'm like, that means they're not going to like my show. That's what you get once that happens with some comedians. You get it so in your head about certain things. But one thing I worry about is like if anyone's actually going to come to the show, number one. And then number two, if they're going to find it funny. It really depends on what I'm doing. Like if I'm performing in like a room I've never performed to before, then I get a bit worried and then I have to like listen to music or like pace up and down for a bit just to get myself zoned. But if it's a show that I've done like several times, then we're fine because I know what the room is like.
Yeah. I can see why people not showing up can be like a worry. You seem pretty full at Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a good gig for you?
I was very happy with the turnout for Mac because also like no one really knows who I am, so you're just kind of like, compared to some of the bigger names that were on, I'm like, why would you want to come and see my little old show where I talk about immigration and my gender and genitals? But you don't need to do that. But you could go and watch James Acast or something like that. So yeah, but it was really lovely. Yeah. Really, really cool.
The first time I properly heard about you was literally I'm not gonna lie, it's literally the day before the MacFest. Like my boyfriend had gone to go see you in the past, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be here on this day, who should I go see? And as soon as I said that, he was like, go to this show, go now, get tickets, go.
Oh, bless. Oh, that's really cute. Well, I really appreciate you coming to the show and obviously seeing it in its like little baby version, because obviously now I'm in Edinburgh. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That's literally the emotion. Why am I doing this to myself? No. Yeah, it seemed like a great idea like 8 months ago. And now it's come around. I'm like, oh crap.
How many times have you been? How many times have you had Edinburgh? Like, is this your first show?
So this is my first full debut show. So I'm here for obviously for the whole run, whole month. My first full run.
It's gonna be good. Is it the same show at Mac that you did at Mac?
It's obviously changed since you saw it last.
Yeah.
But it is basically that element of a party.
It was really good.
Thank you.
Especially the beginning. Like I remember the beginning being like, I was so excited at the beginning because the way you kind of big the audience up before you even walk on.
Yeah.
was really like, I wasn't expecting it, and it was really good.
Thank you. Yeah, we just like energy. I'm all about energy. So I really like energy. So like if I go on with energy, then and I feel energy coming back to me, then we have a great time.
Like, how do you remember new shows?
Oh, it's rehearsal and practice, isn't it? So like you got to try out certain jokes at certain, you can like at open mic nights or like nights that are like pro but are new material nights, you can try them out there. But generally, sometimes you just got to wing it. Like, just take a risk sometimes and just be like, I've got this idea for a joke. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
How do you ever like make notes? Do you ever walk on stage with notes?
Yeah. So sometimes I'll have, if it's something that's like a new order, I'll have it on my hand. Or sometimes I have walking on with notes. So how I say jokes and write jokes is that how I would write a joke, how I want it to be heard. And so with the big, obviously, set up and punchline, but I would know that how I've written it is not how it's going to be said because of how I talk generally.
Yeah.
So as long as I've got the punchline out and the setup, that's all I care about. So every time I've written a joke, it's never come out the way, it's never been delivered the way it's written. So I know that's my evolution as a comic from writing to actually finishing the joke on stage.
Have it like go on stage without notes?
Yeah.
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 I
You
don't
mean
think
when
you
you do
have.
new material?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have done that. And it is a case of you trying to remember exactly what you want to say. And sometimes that can trip you up, where you're like, oh, what order did I say these words? And that's difficult because I'm not very good at words. So sometimes I have to say a joke over and over again for it to be ingrained in my head.
Where would you say that your best gig is? Like, what has been your best gig?
I had a really fun time at Eve Wrestling. So it's a wrestling show that features all women. And that was in Bethnal Green. But the place is now closed down. But the promotion still runs, but in a different venue. And they invited me to do like a performance in their ring. And I was having the best time because I was like, I'm in a ring doing stand-up. This is great. So that was awesome. I did a gig in Bristol outside and it was like loads of people there. And that was lovely. It was like maybe like 1,000 people there. It was lovely.
Doing a gig at a wrestling thing must have been like a dream.
Yeah.
Especially because you're like a massive fan. Like,
yeah. It was, that's what I'm saying. It was an absolute dream. Oh, I did Latitude recently, the Cumby Arena. That was amazing. That was amazing. Even though that you couldn't really hear them, but you could see them on the face that they were enjoying it, and that was the best experience.
so how did the wrestling one work out? Did they like contact you?
Yeah, so I know someone who like helps them with like booking acts, and she just asked me if I want to come and do like the guest spot, and I was like, sure, thank you, yes, and I did.
Do you have a worst gig? Like, what has been the worst gig you've gone to? Like, done comedy in?
There was I got invited to do a show in like the basement of a place in Kent somewhere, but only 3 people turned up. And they still went ahead with the show and no one was interested in the show. So I was like, yeah, we're not coming here again. Because I've traveled for this gig and paid for my own travel. And this gig is not worth the time. So I was kind of like, no, we're not doing that again. So now I'm a bit more picky. And I think luckily I'm able to be a bit more picky about what gigs I do and don't do.
Was that towards the start of your career? Was that recently?
That was about like 2 months before the pandemic.
Okay.
It was cold. It was winter. I was like, no.
It really doesn't sound fun.
No, it wasn't.
Was it advertised like that?
No, it was advertised. Like I was assuming because it was advertised quite a bit, and obviously because they were like, yeah, you come down and do the show. It's gonna have a great audience. We've done it before. It's a really lovely audience. And then you turn up and there was like 3 people, and you're just like, this is not what I traveled for. So yeah. But you grow.
Yeah.
You move.
Do you have any advice? I mean, except from don't do that gig, but do you have any
advice? What, just in general?
Yeah, like about comedy in general, just
okay. You have to be a bit more picky. Like, well, what? Because I could do no. About comedy, I would say go with your gut. Go with your gut in terms of your comedy and your style. And whilst you can like listen to what people like may advise you, always like just trust that gut. And then don't watch what other people are doing, because other people will be going at different paces and rates in terms of this industry than you. This is I figured out comedy is a marathon, it's not a race. So realistically, you just need to like enjoy what you do, write your jokes, and then get on stage and perform them.
So I've started with stand-up, as I mentioned, and a lot of my stand-up I've done online. I've never done an in-person gig. There's like a online group that like is just friends, and we all have like a 5-minute spot. And it's really nice. It's a really nice environment, but the whole in front of people is such a different feeling. I mean, I've not done it, but I can just like imagine seeing people compared to like being on Zoom.
Yeah, you'll have more energy in a room with other people there, and that may motivate you further to like perform to them with your jokes. It's I had no problem with the online gigs, and I know some people felt more comfortable doing them, but I think there's nothing better than having a live audience just laugh at your jokes. So when you can, do it live.
I live quite close to Manchester, and Manchester's really like it's really popular for gigs and stuff.
You got
like
Frog and Bucket there.
Yeah.
You got quite a few other like comedy nights there. So you could perfectly go and do an open mic night in Manchester.
I think it's the thought. Most of the time it's the thought that's scary, but then once you actually get there, it's not a big deal.
Exactly. I think once you get past the first hurdle, that's the most nerve-wracking thing. Once you've done it once, you know you can do it again.
Yeah. I've got friends and stuff that started in the same way I have, that are now doing in-person gigs and are actually doing really well. So I think I need to go.
You need to do it.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite moment in your career?
Probably Jonathan Ross Comedy Club. Number one, I look pretty. And number two, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed film. I didn't think I would enjoy filming it, and I really enjoyed filming it. Everyone was really lovely and nice. And there was a few of my comic friends that were there. Everyone that was on the bill I knew, and obviously meeting Catherine Ryan was lovely. But yeah, it was a lovely day. And for that one to be my first TV like debut is something I'm never going to forget.
I have like research and stuff, and I've seen Girl Code.
Oh yeah, it's on hiatus at the moment.
What is that?
So Girl Code is a show that I run for people who identify as female, for them to. It's like a panel talk show, and I used to plug it as if Least Women was funny, and it was we basically just talked about subjects and topics, topical stuff, things that were happening with their lives in general, and also we would try and solve audiences' problems at the end of the show. So they would put like a question or like something, a problem they need solving. And it could be something like, it ranged from like, what is the best meal deal to like, I don't know if I want to be in a polyamorous relationship anymore. Those kind of things. So like it ranged.
It seems like a really nice environment.
Yeah. It was just a place because especially when I started doing the show, it was very much like one woman was on the bill at a time. You would rarely see women's voices being heard properly. Obviously, a few years later, it's slightly getting better. But like, yeah, I just wanted to have like a nice panel talk show that just featured some funny women.
I see that a lot in comedy. Like I love stuff like Mock the Week. As much as I love Mock the Week, about 80% of the contestants or the people that are on it tend to be male.
Yeah. And then they do like Maisie's on it now quite a lot, and she's amazing.
Oh yeah.
I've known her for a while, and she's amazing. When you do see someone else pop up, you're like, oh, there's that token, there's a token woman, there's a token woman. And that's not what it should be, because it just stand out that person's only there because they're like a woman, and you don't want that conversation. You want that conversation to be that person on the show because they're funny.
Do you have pre-gig nerves? Like I think we've mentioned this, but how do you deal with them?
I would normally I don't drink before a show unless it's a show that I'm properly like comfortable with, like fully brain comfortable with. So I normally don't drink before a show. So if I'm really nervous, I'll normally whack music in my ear and just get myself uplifted and pumped up, just to be like, yeah, we're ready to do the show and stuff like that. And then I like being at a show at the start, so you can feel the audience energy.
Do you have a dream tour? Like a dream, like if you could tour with someone else, do you have a dream, like tour partner, whatever?
In comedy or not in comedy?
In comedy. Or without comedy. Either one.
The Rock. Yeah. I think his story is amazing, and he's obviously very funny. So like he will attract all the women.
Yeah.
And all the nerdy wrestling fans, and I'll just be there. Just being like, this is The Rock.
There was a film ages ago. I mean, it's not one of his best films, but I'm a massive Jack Black fan. And do you remember watching? I don't know if you've watched it, but do you remember Jumanji, like the one with Jack Black and personally, I preferred that one more than the original.
Oh, okay.
But I think that again is because of the people that were in it. So like The Rock and Jack Black and Kevin Hart and all that lot. There was someone else. There was a woman in it, and I don't really know her. I know that sounds really bad, but
she is Scottish.
Yeah.
She's also in Guardians of the Galaxy in the Marvel films.
Yeah.
I want to say Gillian, and I think it's wrong. I want to say it's Gillian.
Okay.
But I do think it's wrong. Oh, Karen Gillian.
Okay.
Karen Gillian, that's her name. Yeah.
They were really, because it was clear they were friends as well.
Yeah, everyone seemed to just get on. Like, I like things where you can see that they clearly have chemistry.
Yes. So right, we only have a few questions left. We're towards the end now. How are you feeling about Edinburgh? I know we've talked about it a bit, but are you prepared? You can do this, but are you ready?
I feel like we're as ready as we could ever be. Like, I don't know how much more preparation I need to do. I just need to not get myself psyched out and just enjoy being here and enjoying the show, which is what I've always wanted. I always wanted to do a show that I felt represented me, and that was just me in a nutshell. So I think I have that. It's just whether anyone else likes it.
I think it's a really good show. And you did the Always Be Comedy as well. And I was there and I knew quite a few people that were there. And we all kind of messaged after the Zoom, and we're like, that was a really, really good gig. The confidence again that you have is really good.
Thanks. It's just, I sell it very well. I sell it very well. Yeah.
It's really, really good. You're gonna do amazing.
We just have to have our fingers crossed. Everyone's got to pray.
So the last question is, do you have a comedy bucket list? Like within your comedy career, do you have a bucket list?
I think I want to be a host on a panel show. Either a host or team captain.
Okay.
On a panel show. I think mainly like team captain on a panel show. I think I want to do a tour. Maybe not of this show, maybe of the next show. Because whilst I kind of was like, I'm not doing Edinburgh again, I've already been like, I know what I want my second show to be about. And it's just crazy. And I think I don't really have a bucket list apart from those two things, mainly because I just appreciate everything that comes my way. So if something comes and is offered to me, I'm just going to be appreciative of it and just like ride this journey and this roller coaster as much as we can.
So I mentioned that was the last question, but I've got one more that's just come to my head. So the first time you did comedy, was that, because your show is about an hour, was that like an hour? Is that like 20 minutes?
Well, the first time I ever did comedy?
Yeah.
5 minutes, babe.
What was it like doing your first like hour then?
So there's a massive, so there's when you do 5 minutes, that's already nerve-wracking. Then you've got to do 10 minutes. And then you do 10s to 15/20s. And in doing 20s, to do a work in progress 45 is a massive jump. Yeah. And then to do 45 into an hour is a massive, like, people don't seem to realize how hard it is to actually construct a whole hour. For me, just being able to be comfortable on a stage, so which is why for like a year and a half, I was doing 45 minutes, just so I could be comfortable on stage by myself, and having like an audience rapport. But yeah, it's a massive leap but I'm glad that I've overcome it and I've got to a point where I'm like, I could do an hour. And people are like, that doesn't feel like an hour. And I'm like, it's an hour. I know it's an hour because I'm tired.
Time goes fast when you're having fun. And I think that's what your gigs truly are.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, I feel like your gigs are not us comedians standing on stage and telling you jokes. It's you involving the audience and making it like one big like party.
Yeah. Which is what the show is all about.
It was a really, really, really nice environment.
Thank you. I try my best.
It was really good. And that's another reason I know you're going to be okay in Edinburgh. But in terms of like writing your first hour, it's all about taking your time and not trying to rush things, being confident and being comfortable.
Yeah, getting to a point where I know that I can do an hour.
Yeah.
There's no, like I said, this is a marathon, it's not a race.
That is my questions done. I just want to say thank you, because I know that Edinburgh is really, really like tomorrow, isn't it? Isn't Edinburgh tomorrow?
My first one's on Wednesday.
First one's on Wednesday.
I've got 2 previews, so Wednesday and Thursday my previews, and then the first official show is the 5th.
Okay. So you must be very busy at the moment. So thank you for taking your time to do this.
Yeah, that's okay. That's perfect. I'm going to go to tech in an hour now. So that, yeah.
Thank you very much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah.
And hopefully I see you again soon. Hopefully I see you do stand-up soon.
Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of Sam Interviews. The information to follow Sikisa is linked down below. as well as the information to follow me, as well as the podcast on social media. Thank you for watching. I also want to say thank you to Sikisa for letting me interview her, especially with the times being very rushed because of the amount of work that she's had to do within Edinburgh. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe if you want to see more interviews. Also, you can check out my other podcast, Chosen Subject. And please press like if you enjoyed this interview. Thank you for watching and have a great day.